to approve the minutes of
I'll
February
second.
17th, or January 31st.
Okay, second and approved. Okay. Personnel transactions. We have a long list.
So, with the exception of maybe a couple of little random items that I'm still working on, I think we are officially up to date. Certainly with the city and library. And I've made wonderful progress with the school district and housing authority as part of the project compiling the annual report. So, but at least for the city and the library, we are all caught up.
Good. I'll move that we accept those transactions.
Oops.
I'll second.
Only one letter from the state?
Yeah, it's down significantly from last month. So I did get an attendance update for the Civil Service Institute. Again, Civil Service Institute is an annual training that the state holds for new personnel officers and folks that work in personnel offices and have to deal with civil service law. So it's an annual training. It goes through a nomination process. And coming out of the pandemic, they are going from where the last 2 years it's been all remote. They are doing a hybrid system this year because I think some of the people like the idea that they weren't away from their offices for 3 weeks like they were under the old system. So at the time that I prepared these minutes, we had just gotten an update that I would have no more than 5 participants locally here for our orientation portion. And then today, actually last night, we received who those 5 would be. And I'm very happy to announce that Joe was accepted into the CSI training for this year. So we have, Joe will be attending the orientation here, along with the personnel officer from Shenango County, and 2 representatives coming up from Sullivan County and 1 from Delaware County. And then they will have 2 months of sporadically scheduled online, live classes that they'll go through. And then in the spring, there will be a 2-day in-person sessions in Saratoga, and then 2 more days in June. That time is in Albany, and that will include the panel portion of the training, which I really, when I went through civil service school, that day where they actually brought in some folks that have a lot of experience and kind of tell some of the stories that they've experienced over the years and stuff like that. That was a really valuable day, and they said one of the participants in the panel will actually be the state commissioner this year. So that's wonderful. It'll be a great experience for Joe.
But our site is only for the orientation, is that right?
Yes. Yep. It's 2-hour orientation. They're going to do 1 hour with the folks from Albany, and then 1 hour I'll host. Yep.
All right, we have an eligibility list, 2 test takers.
Yep.
Community development assistant.
Pass the official copy around for everybody to review and sign. So this is a little bit of a different test than we usually see. This is a promotional exam. So you'll see with a promotional exam, we receive the raw score from the state, along with a key to band the score, to give them their actual score. And the reason they, whatever it's going to come out to be. So we had 2 people out of 4 eligibles, that were eligible to take this exam. One of them, Sarah Comel, who scored the 100, is our provisional in this position. So when you guys establish this list today, I will appoint her permanently tomorrow. So,
So she becomes probationary.
she goes from provisional to probationary, correct, yep, and then she'll be probationary since this is a promotional list for 6 months.
Okay. Now, just technically, they can hire off of this list, or beyond this list, because there's only 2.
Yes, yeah, we would then,
They'd only be able to hire a provisional, though.
correct, yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay. So, do we need a motion to adopt that? Or is it, okay, I'll move that we approve the eligibility list for the community development assistant.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Alright, you ordered 4 tests recently?
So civilian dispatch coordinator, that is the job title, that the commission adopted, this is the test back in October, November, somewhere in that neighborhood we adopted it. So it was budgeted and we did make a provisional promotion, I believe in February, does that sound right? End of January, somewhere in that neighborhood?
Yeah.
End of January, we
Yeah.
did the provisional promotion, yeah. And so statute dictates that we then order the exam within 30 days of the provisional appointment, which we have done. So that one's good. Human resources specialist, we decided to go ahead and add this one. We already have human resources director and senior human resources specialist ordered. We decided we want to order the whole series. So not 100% we will hold those exams, but we want to have them on order just to be safe. And then transit coordinator, this is another one. You appointed or adopted the revisions to transportation coordinator, which we renamed transit coordinator. And we have made an appointment, Nancy Powell has taken that position for OPT.
Provisionally.
Provisional. Yep. Yep.
Nancy Powell.
Yeah, yep. Back and better than ever, so, yeah.
Oh, good for her.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, anything else you want to point out on
Yeah, I highlighted 2 others. Firefighter, I wanted to mention firefighter. We are back at the schools for the first time since the pandemic. We, for the first time, used the large group instruction room at the high school, which was a fantastic test-taking facility. We had, 40 people sitting there, pretty close to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. 40.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yep.
Between firefighter, deputy finance director, and records management clerk. The vast majority of them were firefighter candidates. Everything ran smoothly. It's a great test-taking venue. I was not hoarse at the end of the day like I am when I'm reading instructions using the armory as a facility, because the acoustics in there are so horrible. So I wanted to thank the school district for allowing us back in for the first time and for utilizing that facility being in the actual high school rather than middle school for the first time. So I'm looking forward to that as being our large format testing center moving forward. So the other one I had highlighted here is water and sewer supervisor. I had let everybody know last meeting that the state's done a really good job of catching us up from the backlog of tests from 2020 that had been ordered pre-pandemic, and then we had, basically a full year that the civil service was shut down. This is the one last one that we have floating out there. And I did get a response back from the state, and they are looking at it, and they are going to, they are working on adding that test series for us to the 2024 calendar. So that would mean that's like September of 2023 through June of of 2024. So at least we know that it's not been forgotten about, and hopefully after 2 years as a provisional, well, almost 4 years as a provisional, by the time we get there, poor Jeremy will have permanent status, hopefully before he retires. So.
And Stan? Stan's
Still chief operator. He's been chief operator since '84. He's just part-time now instead of full-time. So, yeah. Yep.
This still says sewer supervisor, shouldn't it be wastewater?
Understand? On the,
No, under the test.
oh,
Exam.
You changed
So-
the job description, but that's their title, not ours.
This is not Stan's position, it's a different position.
yeah.
This is actually on our DPW crew, so they cover both the water and sewer crews, which is still kind of used there.
Yeah, so this is Jeremy Wright. He is the head of the water and sewer distribution crew. So his responsibility is everything from the plant that leads to a person's house. Stan's responsibility is everything from the reservoir to the plant.
Except for the lateral,
So,
that leads
Right.
from the bay to my house.
yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I want to say our letter worked, but maybe it was the end of pandemic issues. All right, no old business. First new business, welcome Commissioner Daniel Butterman. You need to say anything? Want to say?
Do I need to? I was told this was supposed to be less than an hour, so.
Yes.
Glad to be here, really happy to be here.
Good.
I printed off a couple materials for you. I can provide them as PDFs as well as if you'd like. Don't feel like it's homework. It's reference material for you so that if, you know, the 100-page document from the state is very much a summary of all the manuals that they provide to us at CSI when we go to the Civil Service School. So it gives you a really nice broad overview of everything that we do. So if we're ever talking about, discipline, you can just go to the discipline section in there to quickly, bone up on Section 75 law and stuff like that. And then the other thing I provided for you was a copy of our actual rules here, which have not been revised since 2004. You'll see on our annual report that that's a goal for the upcoming year is to do some work on our rules. So, welcome and thank you for your service.
Wastewater treatment job spec revisions.
Okay. So we are going to announce, hopefully tomorrow, an exam for water and wastewater treatment plant operators and trainees. We have currently 3 vacancies at the water treatment plant and 1 vacancy at the wastewater treatment plant. So we are looking to hire 4 people off of a test that we have been unsuccessful in recruiting a single passing candidate for in 4 consecutive hiring cycles. So to me, this is kind of, we're gonna put on a big recruitment push on this. We're gonna start I'm gonna announce it this weekend. I have a civil service workshop that I'm doing as part of CDO Workforce on Tuesday. So this will be one of the top things I talk about there is this job. I think this is a great way for people to get into public service. You come in as a trainee, all you need is a high school degree. You pass the test, the civil service exam, you get 1 year of on-the-job training where we send you to college to get your water license, and you get that water license and you automatically, without further testing, you're able to move up to the operator level position. So we wanted to look over the job specs before announcing these tests. And our fantastic chief wastewater treatment plant operator informed me that we no longer have a grade 2 plant, we now have a grade 4 plant. So we updated the job title and some other places in there where the type or the plant, the grade of the plant is referenced. He also gave us some updates. You'll see just some minor updates to the type of tests that they do at a wastewater treatment plant. So we just kind of cleaned up some of the verbiage there. We added a special requirement that we want our operators and trainees to have driver's license. That's pretty much everything for that job spec and why we're looking to update this one, so.
Do we no longer take sludge from other municipalities?
Other municipalities, I know they do still take, you know, like septic system pump outs and stuff. I don't believe we're accepting from the municipalities right now. I don't know if that's something I'm not saying that's something we're like declining, it just may not be happening. I could check and confirm.
It got taken out of the job description.
Yeah, I don't think that's really been a thing now.
All right, do we need separate motions for these, or just,
I think you're okay if you wanna adopt them both.
I move to adopt both the wastewater treatment plant operator grade 4 plant and the wastewater treatment plant operator trainee.
Okay. Alright. Thank you very much. Alright, so business manager job, spec revisions. This is the chief financial officer for the Oneonta City School District. They have asked me to order this exam this spring, just as a function of responsible succession planning. And so we did a quick review of this, and the only update that they asked me for was to put in a line about the fact that it is the business manager's responsibility to develop and oversee the district's budget process every year. They're the lead, you know, when it comes to developing a budget every year. So that was the only thing that they asked me to add. I did add possession of a bachelor's degree or higher in accounting in case we get somebody with a master's degree or something like that, to make sure that we don't get caught on a technicality there. And then I updated the rest of the minimum qualifications based on the updated verbiage that we talked about back last August, that we need to slowly update all of our job specs with the newer legalese when it comes to minimum requirements. So, not a big change, but since we are adding one example of work, I did want to bring this forward for your approval.
Make a motion, we approve.
And I'll second, but I've got two questions
Sure.
after the second. Business manager 1. Are there 2s and 3s?
I believe the designation of the Roman numeral has something to do with the size of the school district.
Which is my second question.
Yeah.
Average size seems a little soft to me. I mean,
Yeah,
as defined by the state?
that's a good question. I'm not sure. As defined, yeah, I mean, from an athletic standpoint, we're a Class B school, which to me would think that average seems about right, but that's the old sports writer in me thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
I think we're
where
just
that.
barely a Class B school.
Barely, yeah. You know,
In terms of the number of students, but, I mean, maybe I'm making more of this than I should, but.
I can look in to see where that verbiage originally came from. I mean,
And
this
if
was
we need
adopted.
to put in as defined by the state, or if we need to put in, the parameters of the size of the school.
Okay.
And with those possible modifications, can
The second.
we go with the, no, the second was already made. so-
Okay. No, yeah, I can definitely look into that. I'm meeting with Reggie over, on Tuesday, so I will ask her for clarification on where she thinks that might come from, and get this ordered. I kinda have a feeling that this is probably going to fall in the same, testing series that we just held for our own finance director position back in January, so I kinda have a feeling we'll be sitting on this one until early next year, but I could be wrong. Unfortunately, there's no master schedule out there right now, which is really hampering my ability to be able to plan. The fact that I can't see what tests are coming up between now and the end of the testing season in June is frustrating. busy and just never had a chance to sit down and go over a final draft. So I think Greg's okay with us going ahead and tabling this until next meeting, if that's okay. with you, John.
Just for some reference, included in the city's budget this year is not included in the city's budget, but this position is supposed to be grant funded. So the city has been receiving some grants for some large projects like wastewater treatment, some road projects and such. The idea is that this would be to almost like an inspector. That's I think some of the duties for those projects. So, but they may also perform based on availability some other engineering functions. So it's different than like an engineering technician title that we already have, because of it's more project oriented to those things. So it's something that we've been working on with the community development department, the public works department, formerly engineering, and then obviously our office. So it's been a little bit of coordination, but we should have it ready for the next one, like they said.
I think we were pretty
Question
close
I
to.
have with grant funded, what if the grant runs out?
The grant has already been awarded, and it was included as part of the budget for the
No,
grant.
but is that every year?
It's a project grant, so it's until the project is complete.
Is it something where we might be looking at another one of those fun temporary appointments for?
It may be, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So, we had this come up with the job spec last month that we talked about for the emergency management position at the fire department, who, we're gonna be hiring someone to basically update our emergency management policy, which hasn't been touched in several years. So we're hiring them under a special section of civil service law that allows for a temporary appointment, which usually can only be 3 months. But in this case, because it's for a very specific project, we can do a temporary appointment up to a duration of 18 months. So maybe that's the type of thing we explore with this as well, or?
I think part of the goal here also is there may be other projects that this may apply to, so that's why I'm not 100% sure, but the idea here is that because of the kind of the staffing levels that we have that can administer some of these grants and stuff, this is a way that we can, they would be performing some grant functions. It's not it's kind of a way to get another person, but it's funded through the grant, but it is project related.
So some of you will see that next month. So the annual report.
Okay. So the annual report is very close to being completed. So I'll present it completed next month. The only thing I'm missing are financials. And when I'm talking financials, I'm talking expenditures last year. I do have the budgeted stuff in here for 2023. And really it is what it is. It's just a matter of us crowbarring those out of our current payroll system to get those numbers. So we will have those by the end of the week, and we'll plug those last bits in and hit submit before our deadline on the 1st. The state did actually call me yesterday to check up, see how we're doing on the annual report. So they do take this deadline very seriously. So the deadline is March 1st for us to complete this. So you'll see, I'll just go through section by section here. So agency staff, obviously the commissioners, we've got everybody in here. Agency employees, Joe, myself, and our clerk, Nancy. Hours of operation, they don't have a separate spot for physical address, so I left our mailing address in there, even though we're not technically in this building anymore. Joe and I are the ones that are listed as contact staff, so if the state ever needs something, they will reach out to one of the two of us and not be bothering you folks, or Nancy. Last year we held 10 meetings, 9 were regularly scheduled and 1 was a special meeting. We had 2 meetings in August last year. Agency finances, you'll see there's where our zeros are for the 2022 expenditures. And Ginny's working on getting that information for us from the finance department. Appropriations for next year. So this is the appropriations that we're seeing are specifically for the civil service budget line, which is 25% of our full salaries. So we're allocated that we are civil service. So that's what you're seeing there, and then all other, that's materials and supplies and training costs. We did get reimbursed $1,200 from the school district last year. I don't know why they don't ask for the other two, from the library and the housing authority, but those are smaller amounts. I'm not even sure what they are. I guess I'll have to learn that pretty soon. Status of our employees has been pretty constant. The Board of Education, so that's the school district, has 32 competitive positions, only one provisional, and we will be resolving that provisional with a test next month. They do have a temporary appointment right now. That was made on January 3rd of this year, so that's why I don't have to put it on here. That temporary appointment was made to replace a member of the school district who passed away last year, so it was an emergency appointment, and we are resolving that temporary appointment with a decentralized exam this coming Saturday. So we should be able to have that as a very short-term temporary appointment. For us here in the city, the school district, their numbers for non-competitive and labor class employees are down a little bit, but their competitive was steady. For us, our numbers are consistent with last year. We have 16 provisionals, which we'll go over the list here momentarily. That is a big number for us. We were at 15 last year, but that was a big number for us too. But we are in really good shape to resolve a lot of those provisionals, and we'll talk about that when we get to the individual list. Housing Authority, 7 employees. They are a piece of cake. Fantastic turnover rate there. I think I've had 2 people leave since I started handling civil service back in 2015. So Kurt must be a great boss. And then the special that is our library. 11 employees over the library right now, and again, no provisionals, no temporaries, and then their one non-competitive is their buildings and grounds maintenance person who's been there for a very long time. Any questions on the numbers of employees across our agencies before I go through our provisionals?
I think I've seen a target number for percentage of provisionals.
5%.
Okay, so we're 20%.
Yeah, so it's high. So we'll go through the list one by one. I'm a provisional right now. So I took a provisional promotion from personnel assistant to senior human resources specialist effective in December. So that exam is ordered. Tim Kuzo took his test 2 weekends ago, and so that one is going to be resolved hopefully if he does well on that exam or just passes. He was one of only 2 candidates. So Stephanie Decker, finance coordinator. That is a position that I have not. I'm surprised I haven't seen this one get scheduled yet, but the exam is ordered, and hopefully they'll find a home for it and get it scheduled before too long. Timothy Dresser, and if I skip down on the list a little bit, Walter Speenberg. These are positions, the buildings and grounds maintenance position, that should be classified in the non-competitive class, and we need to do a rules update to do that. So at some point, that was a long-term goal every year for Katie, and it got away from her with all of her responsibilities when she was acting city, manager for a while and whatnot. So that is something I would very much like to resolve for Walt. Tim has actually temporarily been reassigned to water treatment, and he is in training to take one of those water treatment plant operator positions eventually. So that one will resolve itself when he gets to take that test in May. But Walt, we really need to make a rules thing to make him non-competitive, so he no longer has to be considered provisional. Gwyneth Germond is a relatively new hire. That test is ordered. You will see that some of these we did not make our 30-day mandated requirement. This is back when civil service was out of numbers. They didn't have any more exam numbers, they had run out, so there was a 2 or 3 month period when we couldn't order exams. So you'll see that some of these where we were out of compliance, it is because of the state math issues. Jillian Hungerford, she's scheduled to take her test this weekend. John Janetz took his test 2 weeks ago, January, yep. Scott Kellogg, he's a relatively new provisional promotion, this one is. So this is a test that's been on order for months before he was even promoted. We had this on order. So hopefully this will kind of fall in the same line with Jeremy. And we'll get this resolved next testing season. Reese Manchester, her test is scheduled for October. April. Yeah, it's coming right up. So I just announced that, and so that one's scheduled to be resolved. Mr. Plouts over at the school district, his test is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. Sarah Plumel, you just adopted her eligible list. She will no longer be provisional as of tomorrow, with Greg's consent. Nancy Powell we talked about, Maureen Seymour. That is not scheduled yet. We talked about Walt. Joe, obviously, having moved over from Deputy Finance Director as a provisional employee. So that test is ordered. We discussed Jeremy Wright and his situation of being provisional for 3 years, and it looks like it'll be another year at least. And then Christopher Yacobucci is another one that we're waiting to have scheduled. So even though we have 17 provisional appointments right now, 2/3 of these will go away with testing that's occurring in the first quarter of this year. So we're making really good progress, and I do commend the state for catching up on the backlog, even though poor Jeremy's still on the back burner. So we're making really good progress. Nicole Mastro Pietro, this was an emergency appointment to the water treatment plant because of very, very low staffing there. So we did make a temporary appointment. The reason code that they don't give me emergency, that's not one of the options, although it made me double check the law, and emergency reasons, that is a reason for temporary appointments. So that test is scheduled though, so her and Tim will take that test in May, and we will hopefully get 4 total people off that list, including the 2 of them. Review of position classifications from last year. We did 2 from the fire department, that was fire lieutenant, and then the emergency management position that we did at the end of last year. Personnel are the 3 new job titles in the personnel office, officially, rebranding from personnel to HR, so all 3 job titles changed. The police department, that is Cindy Chandler's dispatch coordinator position. Oneonta City Transportation. This is a job that you guys did when Katie was still here. It was back in March of last year. At the time, they were considering making a full-time position in the garage. And unfortunately, the person they had in mind for that resigned before it came to fruition, and they've kept it part-time for now. But it's still there, and maybe we actually have a part-timer in that position now that's doing an excellent job, and maybe that's something David would like to revisit. And then the Oneonta School District. We adopted the social media job, which is still vacant at the school district. We did that back in October, so that was their social media marketing. I can't remember the exact job title, but that was the crux of it, was a marketing position that we had created for them.
So these are really reclassifications or
New classifications. New classifications is what they're looking for, yep.
But it doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Could you get them to change that next year?
We try. They may tell me that we've been doing it wrong all this time and that we should be putting reclassifications in there. But at least for this year, I just went with the last couple of years and what Katie has done as my model.
Okay.
We made no rule appendices last year. We held no examinations last year that were outside of New York State Civil Service. And the only decentralized exam that we held was the wastewater and water treatment plant operator trainee position, which we had 2 people test and no one passed. Activities that we do outside of civil service, they basically give me a list and I check them all. So this is all of them. We do more than this, but there were no more things for me to check, so. Consulting, this will be our labor attorney. I have not put this in here yet. I am not sure if we had specific civil service labor costs last year for our labor attorney. We did in 2021 to the tune of about $15,000. So Ginny's looking to see if we had any cases in 2022 where we actually needed legal representation.
Was 2021 the football player from UMass?
I don't remember that.
We got challenged on
Oh,
denying.
that was one of them, yeah.
He was 6 months too old.
Yeah, he was too old to be a police officer, and he sued us for age discrimination, which the State Department of Human Rights decided to make a lawsuit, even though we were just following state law. So yeah,
And
that was definitely, you're right. That was one of them from that year. And then there was a Section 72 and a Section 75 that year too. So yeah.
it hasn't been that exciting this year.
No.
Really.
Good.
So I'll check
That
with
might remain
with Ginny to
blank.
see if there's a number we have to stick in there, but I think we're in good shape. We did not complete any special projects last year. The major issues that I cited from 2022 was continued recruitment difficulties, inflation, which is a problem when it comes to recruiting, 2022 turnover with not only Katie leaving, but also, I was gonna make some changes here and I forgot to. Not only with Katie leaving, but also the loss of, with Commissioner Burns deciding to step down as well. And then our agency moving from City Hall to our lovely palatial estate in the park, so.
What slate?
Yeah, our palatial?
Oh.
Yeah. Palatial estate. Yeah, it's beautiful, so, yeah. Have you visited the new offices yet and seen what a great job they
We
did?
had opening.
We had it
Had
back
some
in,
cookies, yeah.
that's right, yeah, you were there. for
Yeah,
the
and then I saw where the lady thought it was a parking lot and drove in.
Drove into the pond, yeah.
She thought it was a parking lot.
Yep, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I was on vacation to that.
That,
Yeah.
was that?
That's Christmas
I was
time.
there
It was in the
late.
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow.
Our goals for next year, we've already filled one, thank you for being here, Dan. Our vacant position is filled, so we've checked that one off the list. Exploring solutions to modernize recruiting. I don't wanna be able to take online job applications. That was part of the payroll system, an HR system that we had purchased last year. And that may still come to fruition that we stick with that as the solution, but if it does not, then I don't want that to just go away. I want to be able to take applications online. It's an online world now, and the fact that we're still taking paper applications only is a significant problem. So that's the biggest thing for me, but beyond that, just like Carrie in the clerk's office has done such a nice job with expanding our social media, that when I put ads out there on social media, I'm seeing better results. And it's not because I'm spending more money on ads, it's because Carrie and the fire department and those folks have really done a good job of expanding our social media. You know, and it is the most affordable way to advertise right now. Putting it out on Facebook for $100 is way more of a bigger reach than LinkedIn. Indeed is good too, but Indeed is very, it's intensive for our office to maintain stuff on Indeed. It takes a lot of work on the back end to be pulling stuff off of Indeed and processing applications and asking people to reach out and fill out actual paper applications. So I credit the clerk's office for our success there. That and, you know, me putting things like firefighters get to ride on shiny trucks as part of the ad. I think at least 10 of our people applied because they want to ride on shiny trucks. We
Well,
just
all your advertisements then.
yeah. So, I mean, I think it's really important that recruiting is not only streamlined so it's easier, so we're not handling as much paper, but that we make it easier on the employees, on the candidates. So, Joe's been talking about the department by department review of job specifications, so you will see that we are not just ordering exams anymore. We're going to be bringing you job specs before we order them. We really want to put them in front of the department heads and have them look at it and really, get the department heads thinking about, does this job spec need to be updated? Last year we rushed a lot of the times with ordering exams because I'd get an email and they'd be like, hey, we have numbers. We found some numbers. Order the next, we have people can order tests. And so I just order whatever I had on the most important thing at the time without really going through a good review process. But now that the math issue is solved, and I don't have to rush to compete with other agencies for exam numbers, math is once again in evidence. So that's fantastic.
Now, is Greg still thinking about the restructuring okay, so that's part of this.
Yeah, and I think that
For greater ability to move within both vertically and horizontally within the organization.
and
If I could, sorry,
Yeah,
we're just,
absolutely.
those are kind of happening parallel because without knowing how long that project will take, we're still just moving forward. Right now, we're focusing on where we have open positions, making sure that like those are our primary jobs that focus. But I have spoken with the department heads to say that we're going to be doing this broadly, and I don't know, we're still determining how we're gonna do it, whether we want people to do like 1 or 2 a month or something. But the idea and maybe there will be no changes, but if nothing else, we have them and we have them updated, and that may also help with the other project that you're referring to for the restructuring. So.
and when you talk about like the fact that the way the city's functioning now, especially on the operations side, with everything being more of a pyramid, where if you go back 10 years, it was,
Fiefdoms.
it was the mayor and then 17 department heads, and now it's much more pyramid in nature, especially when it comes to, Greg being at the top, and then Chris Yakabuchi is our public works director, and then operations falling under him. So we really need to look at from a civil service standpoint when it comes to that, is how our agencies are defined. So right now, I'm still hiring somebody into public service, but public service isn't really a thing anymore, So I need to do some research on how we actually change our agencies and do that transaction to move maintenance worker A from being an employee of public service to being an employee of public works.
All right, so we have a new commissioner because we said 5 o'clock.
That's right. You got 15 minutes. Yep. Okay.
Or 12 and a half. But
12 and a half? Okay. And then the last one is update civil service rules and appendices. So that's been on there for several years. We're going to try to get to it in 2023.
All right, no executive session needed unless something happened, but, okay, good. When do you need the sign? And does everybody in this room sign?
3 commissioners and myself.
Okay.
So we'll do it at the next meeting. I will submit.
I will be in California at the next
Okay,
meeting,
we'll do a meeting on
unless
that.
we change the meeting. And
To California?
What's that?
California.
I didn't throw my voice, he's.
So, do we want to, that will be the next thing on the agenda. Would you like to talk about the next meeting date?
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be changed for me.
Okay.
Other than the signature of this, and I can come in. I'm leaving the 21st.
Okay. Yeah. I will have this done long before the 1st, so, even if we end up doing the math on our own, rather than using numbers out of the payroll system, we will get that math figured out and submit to the state before we are required, before our deadline is finished, so, yeah.
So, next meeting, keep it as the 22nd. So you'll both be there, right?
You
As far as I
I
know,
hope so.
as far as I know.
As far as you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Unless I go to
something
California
happens.
with Keith.
No,
Are you going to Yosemite or?
no, more southern, the LA, San Diego area. It's a trip we had planned March 20th, 2020. Didn't happen, but,
Catching
maybe
up
it's-
on a trip from that time frame as well this summer. Yeah.
it's been a while. All right, so next meeting, March 22nd, 2023, unless something comes up. And if you can call us in when the report's done, we can get it signed,
Okay,
sealed, and delivered.
sure, yeah, I mean, I just have to hit the submit button, so I mean, we only need to keep the signature stuff on file locally, we don't send it to the states, so.
Okay. Our,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn at,
So moved.
It is.
okay, at 4:50?
450?
Made it.
So.
See, you- that's reading 40 and longer.
47.